His wife said, "Don't call me, I'm not your property." He replied, "Perfect, then don't come home." What he did next breaks her. "Don't call me again, Lenson, I'm not your property." Those were the last words Clara said to her husband. Before ending, the cow laughter and music still spilling through the line. Like an open secret, she had no idea that the man she had just missed would turn that moment into the quietest turning point of the marriage. What happened in the days that followed will make you question what love, pride, and silence can truly destroy. Viewers, what would you do if your wife told you she is not your property? Drop your thought in the comments. I used to believe silence meant peace. That if two people stopped arguing, it was proof they'd learned to understand each other. I was wrong. Silence isn't peace, it's absence. And absence is where love begins to die. My name is Mark Jensen, and I've been married to Clara for 12 years. Once, our home was filled with laughter that spilled through every doorway, the kind of laughter that made neighbors smile and envy what we had. These days, even the ticking clock feels loud enough to break the tension between us. Clara is an artist, or at least she was. When we first met in college, she carried a sketchbook everywhere, sketching strangers, coffee cups, sunlight on windows. She said drawing helped her see people. I think that's what drew her to me in the first place. She saw something in me that I didn't even recognize in myself. I was practical, focused, and broke. She was impulsive, bright, and endlessly patient. Together, we made sense. Or maybe we made excuses that felt like love. Over the years, I buried myself in work. Promotions, deadlines, meetings, it all felt urgent. Providing for us became my purpose. I told myself she understood, that she knew the long hours and missed dinners were temporary. But temporary stretched into years. Clara filled the quiet with her own world, art centers, yoga classes, charity events. I admired her independence, or so I claimed. The truth was, I feared it. Her new circles, new interests, new friends, none of them included me. Lately, she'd been going out more, staying late, her perfume lingering long after she left. I tried not to notice, but love turned suspicion into instinct. I'd ask, "Where are you going?" and she'd answer, "Out," like the question itself was an accusation. Last night was the breaking point. She stood by the door, coat half on, phone in hand, her expression unreadable. "Don't call me when I'm out, Mark," she said, eyes sharp but voice trembling slightly. "I'm not your property." Her words hit harder than any argument we'd ever had. Property. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out except the sentence that sealed our fate. "Perfect," I said quietly. "Then don't come home." The door shut behind her with a finality I didn't yet understand. Now the house feels haunted, not by ghosts, but by the echo of everything we didn't say. I walk through each room, half expecting to find her laughter caught in a corner somewhere, waiting to be released. Maybe this is how all endings begin, not with betrayal or lies, but with two people forgetting how to reach each other. Still, a part of me can't shake the question that keeps circling my mind like a restless bird. Was she running from me, or toward someone else? The morning after Clara left, the house felt foreign, too neat, too still, as if it had been waiting for me to realize how empty it truly was. The faint scent of her jasmine perfume lingered in the hallway, a cruel reminder that something beautiful had once lived here. I made coffee out of habit, poured 2 cups before remembering she wasn't there. The second cup went cold, untouched, a small monument to denial. Clara hadn't called. She hadn't texted. For someone who used to flood my phone with small updates, pictures of sunsets, notes about her day, sketches she was proud of, the silence was unbearable. I replayed her words over and over. "Don't call me, I'm not your property." Each time I heard them, I tried to convince myself she'd just been angry, that it wasn't final. But a deeper voice whispered what I didn't want to admit. She meant it. When we first married, I thought love was about stability. I wanted to build something secure, something lasting. Clara wanted passion, conversation, spontaneity. I thought those things faded naturally with time. She believed they were worth fighting for. In the beginning, we found balance. I'd come home late, and she'd wait up for me with wine and stories about her day. But lately, the stories had stopped. The silence between us had stretched thin and sharp, like glass ready to crack. 2 days passed before she returned. I heard the key turn in the lock, the soft click of the door. I stayed still, half afraid she'd vanish if I moved too quickly. She looked tired, eyes red, hair tied back loosely, her confidence stripped down to something raw. "I stayed at Lisa's," she said quietly, placing her bag on the counter. I nodded. "You couldn't call?" She flinched slightly at the edge in my voice. "I needed space, Mark. I needed to think." "About what?" "About us." The words hung between us like smoke. We talked, or at least tried to. Every question I asked felt like an accusation. Every answer she gave felt like an evasion. She said she felt trapped. I said I was doing my best. She said love wasn't supposed to feel like being managed. That night, she slept in the guest room. I stared at the ceiling, counting the seconds between her sighs. The next morning, I caught her scrolling through her phone, smiling faintly at something she quickly hid. When she noticed me watching, her expression froze. Something in my chest tightened. "Who were you texting?" I asked. "No one," she said, too quickly. It was a small lie, tiny, almost invisible, but it carried the weight of something much larger. And as she turned away, I realized for the first time that whatever she was thinking about, it no longer included me. The distance between Clara and me didn't widen all at once. It stretched slowly, quietly, like a rope fraying one fiber at a time. We still shared a home, meals, even laughter on rare occasions, but underneath it all lay something unspoken, something neither of us was brave enough to confront directly. She'd started dressing differently, simpler, but somehow more deliberate. A touch of lipstick before leaving the house. Earrings she hadn't worn in years. I noticed, but said nothing. The old version of me might have complimented her. The current one only wondered who she was trying to impress. Work became my refuge. I'd stay late under the pretense of deadlines, though the truth was simpler. I didn't know how to be home anymore. When I returned, she was often gone, her absence explained with the same vague assurance. Art center events, volunteering, friends. Each explanation sounded real enough to believe, yet hollow enough to doubt. One evening, I came home early, hoping to bridge the gap. I'd even bought her favorite takeout, the one from the place downtown where we used to eat on lazy Sundays. But the house was empty. Her phone sat on the counter, buzzing once, then twice. A message flashed across the screen before it dimmed. "Can't wait to see you tonight." The words hit harder than I expected. My throat tightened, breath catching somewhere between disbelief and dread. When Clara came home later, I asked, as calmly as I could, "Who were you meeting tonight?" She froze. "Just some people from the gallery." "People," I repeated. "Or someone." Her eyes darted to the floor. "Mark, please don't start." "I'm not starting," I said, voice trembling despite my effort to steady it. "I'm asking." That was the night we stopped pretending. She didn't deny it, not outright. She didn't confess either. Instead, she did something worse. She turned away. The gesture was quiet, but final. It said more than words could. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the hum of the fridge, felt amplified, pressing against the silence she'd left behind. I thought about our first apartment, the laughter, the small promises we'd made over burnt toast and shared dreams. How had we drifted so far from that? When dawn came, the house was still. Clara was awake, sitting by the window, staring into the gray morning light. "I don't know how we got here," she whispered, almost to herself. "Neither do I," said. And in that fragile honesty, something inside me finally broke. We weren't fighting anymore. We were just fading. Still, a part of me couldn't stop wondering, if love can die so quietly, how do you even know when it's gone? I didn't plan to follow her. I told myself I wouldn't stoop to that. But when trust begins to fracture, reason gives way to fear. One evening, Clara said she had another late meeting at the gallery. Her tone was casual, too casual. I waited 10 minutes after she left before grabbing my keys. The air outside was sharp with rain, the kind that blurs streetlights into ghosts. I parked across from the small restaurant she'd mentioned once before, the kind of place we used to go when life still felt simple. Through the glass, I saw her immediately. She was seated near the window, her face illuminated by the golden light above the table. And she wasn't alone. A man sat opposite her, dark hair, confident smile, the kind of ease I hadn't seen in her eyes for months. When he spoke, she leaned forward, laughing softly. It wasn't the laugh of politeness or habit. It was the laugh of recognition. I couldn't move. I watched from the car as they talked, as she brushed her hair behind her ear, as he reached across the table and touched her hand. The gesture was small but devastating. In that moment, I realized the truth I'd been trying to outrun. I'd already lost her. When she returned home later, I was waiting in the kitchen. The house was dark except for the dim light above the stove. She froze when she saw me. "Who is he?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Her fingers tightened around her purse strap. "Mark." "Don't lie," I said quietly. "I saw you." Her lips parted, but no defense came. Only a long, trembling breath. "His name is Daniel," she finally whispered. "He's just someone I met at the center." "Someone?" My voice cracked. "You were holding his hand, Clara." Tears filled her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to happen." "Then why did it?" She closed her eyes. "Because I felt invisible. I needed to remember what it was like to be seen." Her words weren't shouted. They didn't need to be. They landed with a weight no anger could match. I wanted to rage, to demand explanations, but all that came out was a hollow, exhausted whisper, "Get out." She hesitated, eyes glistening, as if waiting for me to take it back. When I didn't, she turned and walked away, quietly, like someone leaving a room they never planned to return to. The door closed. The silence that followed wasn't empty this time, it was absolute. And though I told myself I'd been the one to end it, deep down, I knew I was only confirming what had already been true for a long time. The night Clara left, I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't broken, but because the ache was too deep for tears. It was the kind of pain that hollowed you out quietly, leaving behind only the echo of what used to matter. Days blurred into weeks. I went to work, answered polite questions, pretended I was fine. People offered sympathy disguised as curiosity. I learned to smile just enough to end conversations. What I couldn't explain was that grief doesn't always follow death. It follows absence, too. The house became a museum of memories. Her mug on the shelf. Her scarf draped over the chair. I told myself I'd pack her things, but every time I tried, my hands refused. Touching her belongings felt like erasing the last proof that she'd ever loved me. One evening, months later, I found her letter in the mailbox. The handwriting stopped my breath. Familiar, gentle, deliberate. Inside, there was no apology, no justification, only truth. "Mark, I hope you're well. I've spent a lot of time thinking about us. I know I hurt you. But please understand, it wasn't about wanting someone else. It was about losing myself. Somewhere between your plans and my dreams, I forgot who I was. I don't hate you. I just can't keep living as a ghost beside you. I hope one day you find peace, and maybe I'll find mine too." I read it 3 times. Each word felt both like closure and confession. For the first time, I saw what I'd refused to see. Our love hadn't ended because of betrayal. It had ended because we both stopped being present in it. That night, I walked down to the shoreline near our old apartment. The ocean was calm, the sky washed in soft gray light. I stood there for a long time, thinking about who we were before time and pride got in the way. Maybe some stories don't need villains. Maybe love isn't destroyed by cruelty but by neglect, the slow forgetting of the small things that once held everything together. As the tide pulled back, I felt something shift inside me, not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. I whispered her name to the wind, not as a plea, but as a release. Clara. The sound of it drifted away, carried somewhere I couldn't follow. I turned and walked home, not because I believed things would ever return to what they were, but because I finally understood that endings aren't always failures. Sometimes, they're the only way to begin again. And though I still think about her, her laughter, her sketches, the way she once looked at me as if I were the world, I no longer wish to hold her there. Some loves aren't meant to last forever. They're meant to teach us how to let go. For more videos, please subscribe to our channel.